and we're live straight from the water cooler storage facility is Wade Stotts. What's going on, man?
Hey, Brian. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for getting back to me a year later.
We've been trying to make this happen for a while. Yeah.
So I brought out my special mug in your behalf.
Oh, very cool.
It's my problematic Madge mug. So
I like it.
She's a big people are big fans of hers here on the channel.
Oh, good. Yeah, I've got mine too. Product placement here.
So
subscribe. Wade Show with Wade.
Wade Show with Wade. A very title that's simple and effective.
Well, thank you. I saw that all the other hosts of any kind of show usually had their name somewhere in the show. Maybe it was just the blank show.
Yeah.
But I figured 2 times, got to reinforce it.
But you can well, what that lets you do is if you're ever out, you can get another Wade to fill in, and you don't have to say anything. It's just do the show and act like it's normal.
I like that. I need to get some Wade friends.
Yeah. Just collector of Wades. That's what you need to be. So some of my audience knows you, some of them don't. So I know you first from Crowder, and then you went away, and then I'm watching Doug Wilson, and there you popped up, and I'm like, oh, that's where he went. So explain yourself, sir.
Yeah. So I was the Crowder show for 2 years. People know me there as Audio Wade. I was there in 2019 and 2020, which is just about the craziest time to be involved in a news show. So we got to do, pandemic and, race riots and the election.
Yeah. So you had lots of content. I mean, it was just provided for you, just thrown at the wall.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. There was no question what we were going to be talking about any particular day. There was plenty going on. But yeah, for a while there, we did 2 shows in April of 2020. We did 2 shows every day.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. How exhausting was that?
It was tiring, but man, it was super fun. Super fun. It was the kind of thing where all the other shows, podcasting became really big during that time.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things where there weren't a lot of podcasts doing it in the same room. And so being able to keep up that kind of natural conversation thing was really fun. And we were able to connect with people who were otherwise just kind of stuck indoors, not doing much.
Yeah.
It was a super fun time. And I was there through the end of 2020. And then I ended up toward the beginning of 2021 coming up here to Idaho. So
okay.
So yeah, I knew that I'd known Canon Press and all the kind of crazy good stuff that's been coming out of Moscow for years. I'd known it for years, and then over my time at Crowder, struck up a friendship with the team here and some of the folks, and then was able to make the transition. So
cool. So what are you doing specifically there now?
Yeah. So I'm in the kind of video world. So a lot of it is getting stuff ready for YouTube. When we got here, we had 1 channel and now we're running 4.
Okay.
And so being able to kind of keep those plates spinning and make sure videos come out on time. And then now, since February of this year, I've been doing the Wade Show. So able to work on my own content as well.
Yeah, in your closet.
In my closet. Yeah. It's my bunker.
Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Got to get the lore right. The Wade Show lore.
Yeah, no, there has to be a backstory to make it interesting. You can't just be a dude talking into a microphone.
Oh yeah. No.
Yeah,
that's fun.
Yeah, that's funny. Because I know 2020, I know podcast. I remember people saying, "Oh, nobody listens to podcasts anymore." Before that, and then it just seems like now everybody's got a podcast.
Totally.
But I also I noticed that like even just YouTube content for just the regular Joe Schmo like me did really well in 2020 and 2021, and then it started. Everybody went back to work, and everything kind of leveled out and all that. So, Brylan Riggs says finally more Wade.
More Brylan. We get Brylan on the podcast. I don't know Brylan, but
hey, I'm sure it looks like he's got a manly beard.
All right.
Unless Brylan's the wife or the girl. It's hard to tell.
Yes.
I'm making lots of assumptions that I probably shouldn't.
Well, thank you, Brylan. Thank you for joining us.
But so how did you do a lot of didn't you do music stuff? Like yeah. So tell me about that.
So when I came into the Crowder show, I was the sound guy, and I had just enough kind of audio work to put on a resume to get in. And then when they were already kind of in the midst of doing a bunch of music parodies and stuff like that. And because I knew how to do that, it was just easy to slide me in there. Then when I started doing the writing stuff, I got put on a lot of the song parody, lyric writing and singing and stuff like that. So I was able to, do some pretty wild and weird. Sometimes people will still send me random clips that I forgot about of me doing it.
Remember you when you did this?
Yeah. There's this clip of me and Garrett when we were both there, dressed up as Hall and Oates. And that still gets passed around, and I love it. It's fun to just once in a while be reminded of some wild and wacky times. But
yes, this is Audio Wade, formerly known as Audio Wade. Now he's just a symbol.
Just Wade. Yeah,
just Wade. Wade Show with Wade. That's his legal name now. So, are you still doing? Music?
Yeah. I mean, I get to play around the house, I get to pull out my guitar. When we first moved here, that next Christmas, I did some Christmas songs and put them on a personal YouTube channel. And when I got out my guitar, my oldest son called me Audio Wade. Hey, it's Audio.
Oh, it's Audio. Yeah, that's your name. You're just
he was 4 at the time. It was like, all right, he's back.
He's a different person.
Yeah,
it looks like my dad, but
I know I see him every day, but.
So are your how many kids you got?
I've got 4 kids. My 4th was born in October, so early October. I got 3 boys and a girl. So
you're sleep deprived, is what you're saying.
I love it though.
Yeah,
it's I feel like the sleep deprivation just kind of gets me ready for a lot. Lee Child, the author, says that you should write hungry. You should write without something.
Yeah.
But it's like if you're tired, it does the same thing. You just get to turn on. All right, ready for threats.
Yeah, my son just turned 12, and
cool.
He doesn't care anything really about art. And so I asked him. I actually drew this transformer that was back here, and I like the way it turned out. I said, "Hey, did you see my Mirage?" He goes, "Yeah, it's good." I'm like, "Really? That's it?" Because I'm kind of proud of it. He goes,
"Yeah,
head looks a little skinny." I'm like, "Shut up, kid. Get it." And then he clicks on
for a 12-year-old. That's a big endorsement for a 12-year-old. 12-year-olds are very like trying to come off as very cool. I remember that. I remember that. Had to be
He's just transitioning over to that. I'm too cool to really care. But then he still wants to hang out with mom and dad, and he's still like a little kid in some ways, but in other ways he's bro, man, play Fortnite, bro. Oh, good grief!
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
Yeah.
So let's see if we got any. This is Wade. Good to see you. We have a play on your name.
Oh yeah.
Waiting for Wade's Daily Show, featured him in a clip on my channel, so YouTube could have more of him. How often are you doing the Wade Show?
I do it once a week, and I get to basically, because it's once a week right now, I get to kind of pick which story I want to do. So if something big is happening or something's happening that I don't really have anything to say about, I can just push it off, or if there's something happening that's not really funny, like then I can push that off as well. But right. Dude. Oh man, doing a news show. I tell people all the time that if I were doing a serious news show, I feel like I'd go crazy. But being able to just write jokes about it is so much more fun. It's basically a news monologue in the style of like a Jon Stewart or a late night TV show. And I always admired those guys, talking about daily shows. I always admired the guys who would be able to turn around, 6 to 8 minutes of new comedy every day. And then, you find out that there are 20 writers behind the 16 minutes of new comedy every day. But still, they were able to, it's new jokes and they're always working with new premises. And I always enjoyed that. So I was a big late night TV fan for a long time. I would watch Letterman and Conan every day in college. And would just rewatch and just studied it and thought really hard.
6 to 8 minutes of jokes. That's a lot of work.
It's a lot.
For one person. That's to make it work. I guess Norm Macdonald could do it, but how many people are? I think when he was doing Weekend Update, it was him and one other guy, right? And they would just like craft those however many 6 to 12 minutes, Man,
there are some crazy kind of times, like from that time, the joke that's like, well, for this person, but for this person, that's just a Tuesday. That was a joke that is kind of a cliche now, but like the first iteration of that joke was in a Norm Weekend Update special or Weekend Update episode, just kind of a one-off joke.
Yeah.
No, it's
he was. I remember at the time when he was. I think I was in. I guess I was in high school when he was on there, and at the time I really didn't get him. Like, what is this? Now I'm like, holy crap, he's a genius.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, he always said when he did stand up that he wanted to have a joke or some kind of section or some kind of bit about everything, so that if something got brought up, then he would have material ready to go. Yeah. And you can see that where sometimes he'll launch into something that he said before with like maybe trying stuff out, but it's almost like he was doing material on podcasts. But yeah, just kind of had this mind that could, he wanted to be, he was a guy who wanted to be the best at it and wanted to be able to, if something came up at a show, if somebody yelled out something, then he had 10 minutes on it. And you saw that in even one of his specials. He did one special called Me Doing Stand Up. And somebody asked him, somebody said, "Hey, how's OJ?" And he goes, OJ, because referencing the stuff from Weekend Update. And then he goes on for a 10-minute thing about OJ. And it stays as the closer for his first special because he just had it ready to go. Yeah. And it worked. It worked well enough to close a special that he just had off the cuff, which is great.
Yeah. He, I think the thing I admired about him that now is that he didn't care if he failed. He didn't care if anybody laughed. Yeah. Because there's so many Weekend Update segments where he just stares at the camera and nobody does anything. And you can tell he's enjoying it. And I think there's an element of making things that you just have to like not care. I mean, you care, but you don't care, right? Because if it doesn't work, you can fix it. But and I think that part of that works in YouTube as well, right? I mean, it's like you got to throw things out there, and most of it's not going to work.
Well, the fact that you're still watching those and I'm still watching those Weekend Update things shows that the whatever 200 people in that studio weren't the real audience. So he's talking to somebody and he knows that they're out there. And at some level, it's us in 2023 rewatching it and going, wow, and so, but the people who are the comics who are so focused on those 200 people, if you try to write that thing for those people, then you get, clapter, you get people just kind of responding in the moment, but you don't get rewatches, 20,
30 years later, 25 years later. Yeah. And then it's like, it also, and I guess I've never done stand up, but I have done enough public things to know every audience is different, and you get a reaction from this audience and you go over here, you're not going to get the same thing, whether it's, time of day, that's the city you're in or whatever. Right. Babbage says, "Hey Wade, how much of the elaborate song parodies was your work?"
So I was a lot on the front end of those when we would do song parodies. Either those would come, I would either come up with the idea or those would come from Steven, and I would just write the lyrics for it. Yeah. So sometimes it would come with here's the idea, go for it. And sometimes it would come with a verse written or something. And then I would either record the vocals onto it or record Steven's vocals onto it. But yeah, I was on the writing end and on the music recording end. They had a guy who would send in the instrumental tracks, and so we'd work with his tracks on those. Okay. But I got to do some of the instrumentals, but yeah, it was super fun. That's where I like to be involved, is in the pre-production part. Even now, when I do the Wade Show, my favorite part of it is putting it down on paper. I like the editing. I like reading it to camera, but still, what I wanted to do for the longest time was write for those late night TV shows that I used to watch every day. Yeah. Because I would study the structure of the thing and not necessarily study the performance. I would enjoy the performance, but what I really was into was nailing down what the jokes felt like on paper. But yeah, so I still enjoy that part the most out of it, but I do love being able to give it to people.
Yeah. It's I think most people don't realize how much is involved, even if one person is doing on YouTube or something. How much is for something good is planned out, how much work goes pre-production before you ever do the thing, and then editing. Editing is so important just to make things land or to make it flow. And because sometimes you'll see videos, and we're also conditioned for things to happen so fast now anyway.
Yeah.
So it's like anytime there's dead space, I'm like, oh, we gotta cut that out. Just cut that out.
Right.
Make it
Yeah.
go fast.
Oh, and we've got a great editor here. Dave Hyatt is his name, and he cuts the Wade Show, so he edits that every week. And he and I are on the same page with stuff. Yeah. It's been fun because he and I have had to work with the problem of, because there's no live audience, but we want to give people the chance to understand what I said, and not step on a laugh, even though there's not a laugh on the video. Right. So that's been really fun. But like I said, working with Dave, it's been really fun to just kind of lock in at least our version. We're it's trial and error, but it's different, and you saw that when people did late night from the home. So like when they did late night TV shows in their basements or in their attics, and they would read and then they would pause.
Right. Go, it was painful. It was so yeah.
And so they're like waiting for the laugh that isn't there, and the laugh isn't there to prop up the joke. So, but it's fun, honestly, to just, the goal is to like make myself laugh. Right. And if I can make myself laugh, then that's my only real guess at how the audience is going to respond. And I guess I got that from Norm. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, if you're trying to find your audience that has your sense of humor. So if you make yourself laugh, or you like what you do, then that's probably a good thing. Mendraza 24 says, Wade, how do you handle creative blocks?
Oh man. Well, honestly, deadlines help a lot. So having to do something every week, I can't afford to have a block. And so the kind of situation where you have creative blocks, it's when you don't have enough time, or when you have enough time to have a block. Right. There's some kind of law that's, whatever law, but they say like the work will expand to fit the time allotted. Yeah. And so if you have a deadline and people are expecting it, like I know that I'm going to have folks like the guys in the comments asking for a daily show, so I know that they're going to want the Friday show every week. And so if I don't deliver something and it's at least up to my own standards, then, that's like it. So I guess making it public and having people expect it from you is the best way for me to get past stuff. Cause I had to learn that at the Crowder show. We had an hour-and-a-half show every day. Right. And it was usually, 4 days a week. And we usually film something for a Friday show. And there was a time there where we were doing a game every day. So I was writing a game that was supposed to take up a half hour, and also writing jokes and the opens and all that kind of stuff. But if I didn't have anything, then the show didn't happen. The show may have happened, but it wouldn't have had jokes in it, or it wouldn't have had.
That would have been
fun.
Great.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, exactly. And so it just leaves everybody in the room when it's time to tape out to dry. So, like having somebody, and that, if you don't have that, I guess you can install that in yourself, where like, I don't know. I don't know the situation, Mr. Mendraza. Mendraza 24. So whatever your situation is, if somebody is expecting something from you, that helps. So even if it's like a friend who you say like, I will send you something that I made every Friday at 9 a.m. And that person is going and don't let me not don't take an excuse. Cause I know, that, I mean, you've had to work to deadlines, you've had to work to and that definitely helps. It may, cause you can always imagine that the thing you're going to make is going to be awesome.
Right. If I could just have a little more time, I can make it.
Exactly. And if you have infinite numbers, if you have infinite time, then you'll never get anything done, because it could always be just a tad bit better. And so sometimes when I've put out episodes, I've had to go like, well, it counts, we did one. And
it's better to put out something that's not, because nothing's going to be perfect, but it's good. It's better to get something out there than that idea that's never out there, but it could be great. Right. That's one thing I like about, way back when Star Wars was creative in the 70s. Right. And it's like, they had so many limitations. I think that's one of the things that makes that, movie so good is they had to invent things, and they were fighting against all sorts of things, right?
Right.
And it made Lucas have to solve problems and all that. It seems
Right.
like when you have it's easy and you have resources, it just seems like it's not as, I don't know, there's something that's not there, something not special,
Yeah.
right? If it's just too easy.
Right.
Sounds like straight creative accountability. Yeah, that's Trestle says Brian kind of looks like an old and busted Wade. Thank you, Trestle. Trestle has lurked in my Discord for a very long time. I know all sorts of weird things. Actually, he's near you, and he pans for gold.
Oh, cool.
That's or mines for
Nice.
gold or something.
Very cool. I didn't realize there was gold up here. Now I got to go get some gold.
Well, I've never heard of
Brian. I'll be right back. Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Trestle, what team?
Let's see. It's funny you said you didn't recognize me because we've talked before.
Oh gosh.
Wah.
My deepest apologies.
So what are you what is your job with Canon Press? Like what's your daily schedule? Like what are you doing?
Yeah. So Mondays and Wednesdays we have Blog and Mayblog. It's Doug Wilson's blog post, and he comes and records those here. And so what I do is I'm here for tapings, and we talk through release and just kind of branding and stuff like that for YouTube strategy. I send reports, and we gather and try to figure out growth and making sure that it's reaching the right people and it's doing the thing we want it to. Similar thing with the Canon Press YouTube channel and Jared Longshore's YouTube channel and my own channel. So it's a lot of it is YouTube strategy, and then I get to help out with other marketing stuff and just kind of as I get called into whatever people need me to do. So daily schedule has mostly to do with YouTube and branding and stuff like that. And then somewhere in there, I write my show. So
right. Your spare lunch in the car.
Yeah. So I think last week's I wrote the morning of. I had another story, and then the debate happened. So like the Republican debate happened.
Oh yeah.
This is just like boring / interesting enough to make fun of.
Yeah. So how have you found since you're involved in like YouTube and trying to get things promoted, and YouTube is a nightmare to navigate because nobody knows what to do. Right. What have you found that works and what doesn't work, or what's changed?
Yeah, it's interesting. We've gathered in the last almost 3 years, we've gathered, I think, 75,000 YouTube subscribers on the Canon Press YouTube channel. And so figuring out who those people are is a fascinating thing. So getting the people is one thing, and that's fun. And then learning who they are to be able to feed them new stuff is also another fascinating question. So at that point, it does become trial and error. So it's exactly what you said earlier. It's like, you try something and you go, oh, I thought that fed the same audience as this thing that we posted before, but it turns out that it didn't quite. And so, yeah, it really is just trying to get to know the people you have. And same with Wade Show, same with Blog and Mayblog, where we're just learning because Doug writes his blog, and it's his blog and it's what it is. And then he comes in and presents it. And then that his audience for his text blog is a different audience from his YouTube audience.
Right. Which is weird. It's the same thing.
Same exact content. But I mean, when you get over to YouTube, you've got people who are tuning in different ways. So they aren't typing in dougwills.com. They're going to YouTube and just seeing what's up.
Right.
And if something's up that interests them, then they'll click in. But Doug's blog is a go-to spot for a lot of people. And so people are used to going, oh, I wonder what Doug has said today. Especially in a time like No Quarter November, which we're in right now. In QN, 2023. So yeah, it's getting to know those folks has been really interesting, and then learning how to market something that already exists, his text blog read to camera, to that different crowd of people. Is fascinating because he markets and he does his own thing, and he kind of speaks the language that his text audience is used to for the titles. And titling and thumbnailing sometimes change when it gets over here, just because again, it's reaching different people. So that's been really fun. Like I said, to get to know those people. And now with Wade Show, we're getting to learn. So a lot of the people who've come in there are people who've sometimes they've seen me on the Crowder Show. Sometimes they saw me appear on somebody else's stream. But a lot of those folks are Canon people who came in through Canon through some of those other videos. So learning again what Wade Show's audience is, and it's a bunch of different people who know me from different things and want me to comment on sometimes when a story pops into their head and they go, oh, that's something Wade should talk about. I don't have that information, so I have to again look at what they're responding to now.
Right.
But yeah, it's that dance with YouTube, but the YouTube is just the sort of hangout space for your audience. So your audience is already there hanging out, and they either know you or don't. And so, yeah, again, it's fascinating. It's a wild. Yeah. We're all kind of sort of poking the algorithm and trying to figure out where it's where it's ticklish.
Yeah, my channel became accidentally a Clip Studio Paint, the drawing software I use, tutorial channel mostly. And I had posted stuff, and then you get 100,000 views and whatnot, and I discovered there wasn't a lot out there. Maybe there is now, but there wasn't a lot for that. But that's not what I intended. Like I was trying to do, and that ties into this question. So I used to do, me and my buddy Elliot Fernandez did a show called Paranormals, where we just took paranormal news stories and made fun of them. And so Babbage asks, has Wade ever had any encounters with the paranormal? But I was doing it all on my own channel, and YouTube does not like that at all. Like it's got to be, this is what you do. You do it here. If you want to do something else, make a new channel. So I've got like 3 different channels now, trying to, compartmentalize all these things. But Babbage's question, there you go. Have you had any encounters with the paranormal?
Babbage, I have not had an encounter with paranormal that I know of. But who knows? Who knows? Yeah, I've had some weird interactions with human beings, but
isn't that weird enough?
Yeah,
I mean, we're all on the internet. How many of those people are? Consummate weirdos. Everybody in my chat. For sure.
I was going to say nobody in your chat. I was going to say no. Currently tuning in.
A lot of these people have been around for years. So
these are the best people in the world, of course.
Right, the cream of the crop right here of the internet. So what are your plans for like moving forward with like the Wade Show? Do you have anything else that you're trying to do, or you just trying to grow everything that you're doing right now?
I definitely trying to grow everything that we're doing right now. Canon is such an interesting place because Canon started off as a ministry of Christ Church. So it was a not-for-profit thing. It was a ministry, and so they could print. And then several years back, it got shifted over into a for-profit business, which is much easier to measure the success of. And so the success of it became more paramount, more interesting. And so now we know wins and losses, and operating at a loss is not an option. It's an option for a ministry. I mean, and you can ask for donations and things like that, but not so with a business. So since that shift, I came in years after that shift. But you can see the goals shift, and we've seen a lot of really cool success, and finding our audience which is mainly a lot of times on the YouTube audience is mainly young men, which is true of the YouTube audience generally. And so finding those people, that's just kind of getting more of those people, getting in the front of their faces, and again, just kind of recognizing what has been going on here for decades. So Canon doesn't have a content problem. We've been making content forever. And Doug, who's the star of 2 of our 4 YouTube channels, has something to say about everything. And so he's always interesting. And so we have a lot of, he's very kind to us in what he does at Canon. So it is just a matter of again, reaching those people, because we know we have the stuff, we have the stuff that we can deliver on and deliver to them. But yeah, grabbing those, finding those folks. And as far as Wade Show goes, I would like to expand it. We're looking at some different options and ways to do that. But I love being able to do the weekly news monologue, and it's just a matter of figuring out, is more Wade Show more news monologue, or is it more unscripted stuff, or is it streams, that kind of thing. So we're in the process, and the folks who really want more of it, we're figuring that out. We we want to give.
Seems like there's been an explosion of like live stream. I guess they're technically podcasts. Well, we kind of like this because I noticed that YouTube has a podcast option now where you can basically label a stream or whatever a podcast. But it seems like the long form stuff, there's a huge audience for that now. Like, because I'll go through some people that I follow, and I'm like, man, that thing is an hour and a half, 2 hours long, right? And it's the conventional wisdom is got to be short. Like it used to be 10 minutes, then it was. Now they're trying to do shorts, but I think people are wanting something a little bit, at times, a little bit longer.
Right. So right. Well, I remember back in the day how I found out about you was when you would go on Doug TenNaples streams.
Oh yeah.
So he was drawing Bigfoot Bill at the time. He was inking it, and being able to watch that creative process while I was like, or at least like listen to you guys talk while I was at work was super fun. And it was just enough of a like I was following something all day. So even when I had to pause and go do something else, but I was doing stuff where I could listen to stuff while I was working, and so that was helpful to me because I couldn't just like chat at work, but listening to interesting people talking and working, and again just like, and also following Doug's creation of this thing, so watching his creative process was fascinating to me. I don't know anything about art, so I'm just listening, going like, oh, inking, that's interesting. What is that?
what?
And cool. So I could listen to like them talk about what they wanted to do with the color, and but yeah, it is interesting because like you said, the conventional wisdom is people don't want long form, but I mean the fact that Joe Rogan got famous as he did. He didn't do, a 45-minute show with 15 minutes of commercial breaks.
Right.
It was 3 hours with whoever he wanted to talk to. And because he was interesting, because he was there early, he gathered an audience and people had an appetite. And so other people have been able to go, oh, there are some things that only work for Joe or some people that only work for people he's built an audience with, but they're at least able to know, oh, it's that rule that I thought was there that came from TV. Like we learn the rules of TV and then go, oh, now you want to make stuff. Okay. You have to follow the rules of TV. Turns out there are new rules on the new medium. And like, we're still in the process of learning those.
Yeah.
Which is,
one of the things that's interesting is that I've realized that a lot of people and people in my own audience use the internet in a way different way than I do. So I'll be streaming and someone will post listening while I'm driving. And I'm like, what? Like, who listens to streams while they're driving? It never even occurs to me, right? Or when people unfollow, like Instagram, right? I was talking to someone about this where like my follower numbers on Instagram keep going down, and I'm like, I never unfollow anybody unless they post something absolutely obscene. Like it's not taking up space on a shelf. It's like I just let them. So unfollowing and unsubscribing and all that is very, very strange to me. Question from JT Studios: is the pacing of the Wade Show a major topic of discussion with your editor?
Pacing is something that's kind of written into it. So I try to, like I said, I try to write knowing that so if I have a joke that I know somebody will have to pay attention to, then I try to write in such a way that if somebody's laughing, somebody out there, dream of all dreams, then my first words of my next sentence aren't going to be a problem if they miss them. Gotcha. So that at least is my way of taking care of that on the front end. I don't always get that right, but yeah, the pacing of it is interesting to me because again, it's the pacing of a late night show, which is what it's based on, is so determined by that interplay with the audience. And so if it's going well with the audience, then they let them go. And there's, so the 6-minute monologue, if read by itself, might be 4 minutes on a late night show. But yeah, so we'll talk about that. And it's a open question as to how to solve that problem. Again, like we talked about figuring out the new rules for TV versus online. It's the same kind of thing, but yeah, it's sometimes we err on the side of too fast, which is, I think, can be kind of fun if somebody goes like, wait, what was that? I kind of like that if somebody leans in and wants to, but if they don't want to go back, that's fine. you know.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'll throw out a joke or a reference or put a Photoshop up, and if somebody such that if somebody likes it or wants to know more, then they can skip back. But if they don't, then they just keep going, and that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. That was just maybe Wade would want to see some of your political sketches.
Okay.
I've done that once. I did a stream where during the debates between Biden and I guess it was 2016. So it was Pence and Trump and Biden and Harris. And my goal was to draw each of them as horrible as possible, like just make them look disgusting, every single one. So I had Trump's orange running down into his shirt, and I had Biden looking all decrepit, and I had Pence with his bloodshot eye and the fly in his head. And then I did Kamala Harris cackling. And I only got in trouble online for Kamala Harris because I was being sexist, and I was perpetuating the stereotype of the angry black woman somehow.
Oh,
and I'm like, I drew all of them. They all look horrible. She looks the best out of all of them, but the internet is a stupid place. So
you should have known better, Brian. Come on.
Well, I did. I knew I was surprised. I knew I would get some pushback, but I didn't expect that. I was like, really?
That is fascinating. Showing her laughing is, definitely the angry black woman. That's fascinating.
It made me want to double down, but then I'm like, it's just like, then it's just going to be like, it just never stops.
Yeah. And then instead of a Clip Studio Paint channel, it just becomes a Kamala Harris.
Right. And then I'm the political cartoonist, and it's all politics all the time, and it's not fun anymore. We were talking about Doug's, when Doug switched up his channel to a politics channel, and it blew up to like 500,000 subs or something before he got struck and took down. And then he did it again and did it again. And got it every time, kept getting struck. But he would have like every 100,000 he would have a live stream celebration, and I would go on there. And I remember we had like 7,000 people watching, but the chat was like ridiculous, and it was all older. It seemed like older people, and we were just joking around like we always do. And they were like, "What's all this joking around? Read the news." And I'm like, "Do you know what channel you're on? Like, new guy."
I remember when that happened. That was it was during 2020, and he was just all about election stuff. And and like still is. I mean, he does the Doug in Exile stuff, and it's awesome. And he gets really into like the absurdity of the minute details, which is great.
Yeah, and he's got it figured out. It's interesting to me what catches on, and I get politics because that's everybody has an opinion, and that gets the blood flowing. And then any kind of fandom stuff, movies, Marvel movies, any kind of drama that people are passionate about. And it seems like that's the almost surefire way or the easier way to get an audience. It's not easy because there's a lot of that content, but if you can get people riled up, then you're more likely to keep them stuck. If you're just sitting around drawing like I am, people are like, "Why don't you have more followers?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Tell your friends."
And the interesting thing, you've got like it's so polar. So like people will go heavy on the outrage stuff, and that will get a ton of views. And then you've got like cozy views. So like you've got the people who want just like busy restaurant for work or whatever, and they'll like listen to that for hours. And so it's like so people want both of those, and they just kind of are used to jumping from 3 hours of yelling about politics to 3 hours of like, I don't know, chipmunks running around and
oldies music in the next room. I see those pop up.
Right. And so like it is bizarre, but it totally matches that. Like if you're gonna go this high, then you've got to go this again, cozy, and then anything that's just like sort of normal people doing normal stuff is like not as attractive to like lizard brain. I have to be doing one or the other. I have to be like hunting or resting.
Fight or flight, or we're in our cave, eating the meat. That's what we're doing. Kusmeti says the Kamala drawing was by far the most flattering. It was.
Oh man, I have to see this now.
I'll send it to you. We'll see if I get people mad by sending that to you on Twitter or X or whatever. That was weird. The internet is indeed an incredibly stupid place. It is the dumbest of places, and also not a real place, not a real thing. So,
what do you mean? What do you mean? We're sitting in the same room. We're just
yeah,
he's just in a lovely galaxy.
He's got all my water over there.
Absolutely, I was stealing it. Yeah, I wish we could just pass it
Is he a prepper or is he doing the interview from a storage closet?
Both.
Yeah. It's got to be prepared.
Yeah. When I started doing the show, I said that I was like doing the show from my bunker,
Mm-hmm.
And so this set was my bunker, and then I kind of gradually moved away from that, but kept the set, and so it just looks a little
Right.
like, you know. But I think it's a nice change of pace from the like for TV. Everything looks really manicured, and like they've got these shiny glass tables, and yeah, I like the storage closet look.
Do you think people on the internet, on YouTube, like unproduced things more or slick things?
Oh, that's I don't know. I think the stuff that becomes popular, the slickness might be hidden.
Mm-hmm.
So that like what you just said earlier about it taking a lot of people, and then somehow still feeling like a relaxed, oh, we're just hanging out kind of thing. Because even Joe Rogan's podcast, I mean, they have he's like built an entire wing of his house or something like that, and there's this, and he has a ton of people behind the scenes, but it looks like two guys just sitting at a like cool table chatting about whatever. So yeah, it is interesting to me that there's probably just as much thought put into set dressing on most podcasts as there is on TV, but it's a matter of making it feel more approachable. But yeah, it's almost like expensive ripped jeans, where you spend a ton of energy and effort trying to make it look real.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. It's like if you're creating something, having a team of people helps because it takes so much effort to make something, but in a timely way. But also making it feel like it's just a couple guys or one guy just doing something. Mm-hmm. That brings people in better, easier, I think, because you feel like, I'm just coming in listening to this conversation. I'm sitting in the coffee shop next to this table listening to these dudes talk. Mm-hmm. I think that's what people want. But
that is what people used to say about. I heard Seinfeld say this on Larry King once, where he went on and he said, I think people I like your show because I like how it feels. Like it seems like a good place. Like you were talking about how the internet's not a place. And like Seinfeld would talk about TV being a place where people, if you watch the show and it feels comforting at some level, why Seinfeld's apartment had the cereal boxes up on the refrigerator was like, that's kind of comforting spot in which to be entertained. And so you feel like you're being transported somehow. But yeah, I'm just trying to make people feel like they're stuffed in a closet, I guess.
What is in that crate to your right of your right shoulder? Is that, it looks like syrup.
It's I don't even know. Let's see. It is Orville Redenbacher's popping and topping oil.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. It looks like it is all soybean oil. So I'm going to get the anti-seed oil folks riled up. But again, it's in the background. I don't consume it.
Right. It's all just props. Prop guy put it there.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't know what it's for.
Yeah. I don't sit here and drink it. I should do that on the show. Just like ruin my gut.
Plot twist. Both are in front of green screens. I love the green screens where it's just like, it's a pretty, you can tell, because they got that little flutter around here because it's not very well done, but it's like they're just in an office and you're like,
yeah,
where are you that you need to hide that?
Not in an office, I guess. What if they're just on top of a mountain and there's this gorgeous
I don't disclose my location.
Like, I have to be, I have to look like I'm at work.
Was audio something you fell into or a specialty?
Audio was something that I used to like do in. I want one thing I wanted to get involved in was audio recordings, like music recording, and so I was more into that. And then in college, I did a lot of live audio for bands and stuff, and did that pretty regularly. And then when I got into the Crowder show, it was rather than mixing a band for a live in a house, a lot of elements were taken away. So it was mixing whatever 4 voices and a video input instead of, and it goes straight into your headphones. So you're not dealing with speakers, and you're not dealing with people and space, and you're not dealing with instruments that have bleed that go into the audience beyond. So it was actually a nice sort of, I guess that's just moving into radio kind of thing. But yeah, I learned a lot of it in high school and college, and then was able to apply that. But yeah.
Wade, is everyone at Canon Press Calvinist, or are there various views represented there? I enjoy the Wade Show.
Well, thank you, Troy. So Canon Press is a ministry, like it started out as a ministry of a Reformed church. And so it's like we're pretty much all on the same page theologically here, but it's all kind of runs in the background. So as far as any, like it's not as much that we have like debates in the office or something. It's mostly just we kind of have the same baseline stuff, and we're able to so it's kind of like the I don't know how computers work, but it's more like it's not on the RAM, it's like it's just stuff that's it's stored, and we all kind of are there, and then the RAM can be stuff that we're dealing with in the same way that like Christians work together and don't have to assume, like they can assume that God exists. They can assume that Jesus died on the cross.
They're not debating the existence of God. It's just kind of baked into like, that's why we're here.
Exactly. Yeah. And so sometimes you can disagree about finer points, but yeah, a lot of times we have unity on most things and like-mindedness on that stuff. But we're not like, nobody's mad about nobody's mad if people aren't Calvinists, but it's just what we believe.
Right. What denomination is it? Is it PCA or is it?
So we're a part of the CREC, so the Communion of Reformed Evangelical Churches.
Okay.
So it's a denomination. It's an interesting denomination because it has kind of pockets all over the country, but and all over the world. There's some in other countries, but yeah, that's kind of the history here. It started the denomination started here and then spread over the country. It's kind of
because I don't think I don't think that doesn't sound familiar. I mean, I'm in North Carolina, so we have a church like every 3 feet.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because it's like where I am, about the middle of the state, it's all Southern Baptist, Methodist, Presbyterian, and then as you go towards the coast, it all becomes Free Will Baptist. Mm-hmm. It's just very interesting how they just kind of rolls out. But I don't think I've ever heard of one of those.
Churches here. I grew up Southern Baptist, so I grew up Southern Baptist in Arkansas.
Deep South Southern Baptist.
Oh yeah, that was my world. I loved it, and we were kind of in the transitioning into like Southern Baptist megachurch world and stuff like that. I'm not in that world anymore, but that is the water I swam in my whole time growing up.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of Southern Baptist churches turned into mega churches. All over the South. And I know here a lot of it was there was a lot of smaller churches that died, and so the bigger churches just kind of sucked up people.
Yeah.
So it's a weird dynamic. The church I grew up in just folded, and then a lot of those people all went to the same church, and that church is huge. So it's a very weird dynamic how things get big.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of like Walmart coming in when a big church comes in, and like, and all the other shops are going to close. It's just a matter of time.
Right.
It's sort of a franchisee kind of model. Not putting down anybody who goes to a mega church, but yeah, it's interesting to see like when that does happen to a small town, or it happens to a lot of places. They just kind of converge, and so sometimes you lose the particularity of. I mean, I still have an affection for old like Fanny Crosby hymns and stuff like that, which is not what you get in Southern Baptist churches today, but that was a staple just in my parents' generation and when I was a little younger. But yeah, sometimes you lose some of the sweetness of that diversity, for lack of a better word, of even a small town can have some interesting diversity within churches. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm just speculating.
Yeah, I've never been attended like regular. I've been in a mega church setting before, but it's really always seemed to me kind of impersonal. You have to be more. I think it takes more effort to get plugged into a mega church because you have to be you can disappear, right? You can just show up and then nobody knows you, and then you just walk out at the end, and it's like, well, that's not really the point necessarily of going in the first place.
Right. Yeah, it's attractive to people who want to hide sometimes, which is not a total knock on the model, but it like if people want to hide, it's easier the bigger it is.
I came out of like some really bad church situations before I went to the church I was at now, and when I started going to that church, I was like, I'm going to disappear. Like I just need to rest. I'm not doing anything, right?
Yeah.
And then that lasted about a year.
Okay.
They're like, can you do this? Can you do
Yeah.
that? Can you do that? And it's like, oh, yeah, I guess so. So, but it was the right amount of time of not doing anything for me.
Mm-hmm.
And had I been in a mega church, that time would have gone a lot longer because I would, object at rest tends to stay at rest.
Yeah, because you weren't needed quite as much in the big church.
Yeah, it's like, oh, somebody else will do it.
Yeah, they got the system going. Yeah.
Again, my church is turning into a mega church because we're a first century evangelizing church and leading people to the Lord like we're all supposed to. I think around here, most churches are not becoming mega churches for that reason. I could be wrong. Again, I'm not in it, but it doesn't seem like that. Maybe I didn't quite catch this earlier, but why did Canon Press turn into a for-profit instead of a non-profit? Was there an advantage in running it?
Yeah, I think it was mainly just a matter of being able to have a scorecard. So just like figure out if we wanted to grow. You can grow as a ministry, but you're growing mostly through donations of core members. But yeah, I actually wasn't here, so I don't know what exactly happened in meetings like that. But all I know is that it's been really good for us, and that we know whether we're operating at a profit or a loss, and we can calculate and go, and it makes us have wins and losses, so we can know, okay, well, and so if something does well and something else does poorly, then those things are making up for each other and affecting each other, less so than if we're sitting on donor funds, which is just it's just difference between nonprofit and profit. So, and I'm not saying nonprofit is bad. It was just it seemed I'm just enjoying the fruit of making that decision for this company.
Yeah. Okay, I think that was all the question. Okay. If anybody's ever worked for a ministry and had to look at the budget, I think nonprofit ministries are a little more comfortable with a deficit when they look at the next year.
Sure.
They're like, because that's kind of normal. And then when you're for profit, it's like, no, that's not going to work. Because I think there's more for right or wrong. Like there's more likely in a ministry, so God will provide. Mm-hmm. So I'm not too worried about it.
Right.
And
yeah, it is a skin in the game question. And if because if you can lose, then you that's always an option. And so it at least in this instance, it pushes us in a good direction. And so if you're marketing to if you're primarily marketing your ministry to donors, that's just a different scorecard. Whereas if you're marketing it to just kind of ordinary consumers, then again, just a different thing. So it's just a decision that different people make.
So were you involved in the so every year on No Quarter November, Doug always does an intro that's usually involves a lot of fire and cigars.
Yeah.
Were you involved in that at all?
I got to be an audience member for the whole thing, which is great. So I get to be the Canon Press first fan. So I got to just but I got a little bit of preview into what they were doing and saw some shots ahead of time, but yeah, I just get to be a fan during that time, which is good.
Yeah, so we got to use a flamethrower this time, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh, super fun. And yeah, I think it's still here. No, it is. We've got it sitting out in the middle of the office, but we are auctioning off the flamethrower. And then if you, no, it's not an auction. It's like a raffle or something. But if you don't win it, we are selling No Quarter November branded flamethrowers on the Canon Press website, and we've gotten some orders.
All right. Hey, how much are they running?
I don't remember, but canonpress.com and search flamethrower. I think it's our only one. Yeah.
So I was in so I'm already probably demonetized for saying the word flamethrower, but yeah, I was in a store where they sell certain things that YouTube doesn't like us to talk about. Yeah. And they had an attachment. Yeah. Things that make loud noises,
right.
Party favors.
Sure.
And they had an attachment that you could put on one of those noisemakers that was a flamethrower. And I was so close. I was like, awesome. That's ridiculous, and I love it.
Yeah. Well, it's cool because like the mechanism of it is super simple. It's like, you know, it's air and like gas and a little pilot light. So and so all it takes is just like shooting that gas out and a little bit of fire right there. Just oh man.
Yep.
But yeah, if the folks in the chat are watching right now haven't seen the video, No Quarter November 2023 is the name of the video, and it's a ton of fun. You can also go back and watch the other ones. We've burned field, a couch, a boat, and an office. Yeah. So it's been a while. A truck. We did a truck one year. I wasn't into that one.
There was one that I was kind of interested. I don't know if you know this. I think it was the one. Doug is sitting there, and it looks like he's really close to the fire.
Yeah.
How was that shot?
I wish, again, I got to be in the audience for that one too. So I just knew that they were working on it. And
so he was really there? That close
he was really there. And the fire was really there. I don't know how much the fire had gone by the time he got up.
Right.
You know, so that
must be like a forced perspective thing, because he looks really close.
Yeah, he is close. We're the I'm sure that there were the lenses were chosen well to make that look as close as it was. But yeah, the shot where he gets up from the chair and the chair is burning behind him.
Yeah.
No, that is wild.
I was expecting to see some like obvious, there's the effect. And then he stood up and the chair's on fire, and I'm like, is this superimposed? Like what? How did they do that?
Yeah, I know that there was some post work done, but I don't know what it involved.
Okay.
But before that, I do know that he was really sitting on that chair, and the stuff behind him really was on fire. I don't know again how long the handoff was between him getting up and the chair burning. But I don't know.
I really like practical effects. Like I'll go on YouTube and look at I have this idea in my mind. I'm going to like just experiment and film some things and like miniatures and stuff, which I probably will never get to, but you know, it's in there in the back of my mind. But I love there's a channel where guys will try to recreate a classic effect, but that's all like they did the Thing opening. And they went through like how they did that, and you watch it in the movie and you just take it for granted, but it was like super involved with like they had to get the right kind of plastic to melt at the right speed. It took them a long time, and the end result looked great. But I love that stuff. So anytime I see that online, I'm like, okay, I know that's practical. I want to know how it was done.
The other day, my sons and I watched Mission Impossible 4, the one where he's climbing on the building. And that we watched it filtered for anybody who cares. But the feeling that you have when he's actually on the building is a different feeling than you would have if you could tell he was on a green screen. But if you know in the back of your head, they filmed this. This was like this is how it went into the camera. Like they might have taken out a wire, but he was there. Well, and
that's like watching Jackie Chan stuff, right?
Yeah, right.
Because he did all that, and it took him a bunch of takes, but he pulled it off.
Right. I know and there's so few cuts in those Jackie Chan movies. So if they did a cut, if they did a new take, they had to reset everything. Yeah. And so you're not just relying on fast cutting and a bunch of shots. It makes a huge difference for the stakes and like whether the audience is actually on edge, that you just can't get, like I think the Mission Impossible 4, he was climbing on the Burj Khalifa. And then I think the same year there was a Fast and Furious movie where they were like driving through the Burj Khalifa or something. And that one was obviously done digitally. And you watch it and you just go like, it's not like, I don't feel the stakes quite.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter. Nothing's going to go wrong.
Yeah. And not to say that the like art of it and the technical aspect of it is not amazing. But like for the audience, it just doesn't quite land somehow.
The other thing that I've run into, and I realized this probably about 8 years ago, because it'd been a while since I've seen Lord of the Rings, and the first time I saw it on a 4K TV, I was so disappointed because it was obvious what green screen, like the technology of the presentation had outpaced what the film was designed for.
Yeah.
And it was like everything just looked. I wanted to get my old TV out of the trash so I could enjoy it again. You know, I was like, can I get the old tube and watch it through that? And about that time, I was just gonna say, yeah, about that time I was at like Christmas, and my nephew and I were watching TV, and Harry Potter came on at the same time. We both went green screen because it's like it's just obvious now.
Yeah. Well, and I think you get that also with like you were talking about Star Wars earlier. And when the prequels went on, and we could talk about the CGI and all that kind of stuff, but when the prequels were filmed, they were filmed digitally, and so you can never upscale it. And so so you can upscale film because you just scan the film and there's more definition there. But when they didn't have any film to scan for the 4K versions of the prequels. And so when people are watching the prequels, it's just a little bit like artificially sharpened. Right. And so you never it can never quite go all the way up to it. And there were a few years there, because I think it was the same era that the Lord of the Rings movies were coming out, where we just didn't quite know how things would upscale, or because there's for some reason the film effects and stuff like that look better and can be scaled better when they're practical than if they're digital, which is, I think, a bit of a shame, because there are some great movies from that period that we just will never quite, it'll always look a little bit warped. But I don't know.
Yeah. That's like that. I guess some of the newer TVs have that setting where it'll fill in basically pixels in between that really aren't there in the film. It's just calculating. There's a blue one here. There's a blue one here. We're going to fill in the one in the middle. And that's how you get that super smooth thing, right? It makes Lord of the Rings look like a soap opera, because it looks like this isn't film. It looks like it's on TV. It just looks weird.
Yeah.
Like 60 frames a second, but it wasn't filmed at 60 frames. It's artificial.
Yeah.
It's like we're trying to make things too nice. It's like it doesn't work that way.
When you turn it up so much, it starts to look cheap, which is
which is odd. It's like the more technology we have to make it look slick, the worse. It's just our brain goes, it doesn't.
Right.
Something's not right. I don't know what it is, but it's something's not right.
Well, and the 24 frames thing started because of a technical limitation.
Yeah.
And so now if we try to, like Peter Jackson later in the Hobbit movies tried to double that, the frames per second, and everybody goes, oh, that looks wrong. It looks cheap. It doesn't look quite right. Yeah. And our eyes have gotten used to it. But it, again, started with, we talked about earlier about limitations and kind of creating creating what we know. Somehow movies look more like a dream somehow when they're at 24, and then it starts to look fake.
I'm just, it's like I wonder if something like 24 frames a second, if it's something we were conditioned to, or it by accident tapped into something that's true. That's in order for these stories to be told and to be received on this screen, it needs to be a little unreal.
Yeah.
Right. So
it's probably both. Yeah. No, I think there's something there, because if it's too much like reality, somehow we feel removed from it. It's like can frame rates create the uncanny valley?
You're right.
That's a fascinating thing. I mean, again, it's just turning a knob, or it's just like changing one setting, and then all of a sudden, all of a sudden it feels too real or not. Yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting question.
It's like like the difference between a black and white photograph. Again, that's a technology thing. So black and white film has a different feel for the story than color, but all that was just initially technological limitations, right? But it's a choice you can still make that influences the photograph or the movie, or if you film something in black and white, it just makes it feel like there's a barrier here. Like when we're looking at like pictures of your great grandparents or whatever, it's black and white, and it's like, I wonder what it was like. It's a little more mystery there, I guess.
Yeah. I remember I listened to a thing with the editor of the new Top Gun. Eddie Hamilton's his name, and he talked about how they were they added film grain, so they filmed it digitally and then added film grain later to it to try to make it feel like it was the Tony Scott original. And then they realized, if we mimic exactly what the film looked like, then it starts to look fake. And so they turned it down. So they had it, and they were like, this is the same amount of film grain that's in the Tony Scott movie. And then they thought, oh no, that again, phony. We were somehow like, so they put stuff in.
Yeah, exactly. Is phony.
It is phony. Like, yeah. And so like, but still, yeah, the thing, there are so many things that are designed to mimic older tech. In the same way in audio recording, people do the same thing where they're trying to make stuff sound analog when it's going into their laptops, because they're trying to mimic the feeling that they had when they listened to something for the first time, or when I used to like when people used to listen to Van Morrison records, and then you listen to the new Van Morrison record, you go, oh, it sounds too clean, it sounds too right, you know, it sounds like it's just plugged in, it sounds all digital, and then people want somehow to go back. But again, everybody's just working with what they had at the time.
And this almost gets into like AI art. Like, what's the problem when we look at AI art, right? I mean, obviously the fingers, like there's 8 fingers on each hand, but
that is a problem. Yeah.
But
it's not just hard for humans to draw hands, right?
Yeah. It is a design thing that's like, you know, it's like the test. How much work are you going to do? Get the hand right. But it's like, you know, it just looks, there's a lot of well done AI art that just looks not, there's just something off, right?
Yeah.
Even when it's done well, it seems like there's, and maybe they'll fix that eventually, but
yeah. Hey. Well, and yeah, there's something about like a person sitting there and going, oh, it's not quite right yet. You know, and just like really being in turmoil over this thing not being quite, and then like making the changes that need, or like little mistakes, or, you know, there aren't enough. It may be that there aren't enough mistakes, or there's enough, like there's some, when you like read a novel, there's some novels. I'm listening to East of Eden right now, the audiobook, and like there's so much energy in the writing there that where you're leaning in because you want to know, and you're like, I don't know, there's something about the style, and you can't put your finger on it, but because you can't put your finger on it, you can't, like, the algorithm can't learn from it,
right.
And so but somehow
it's not just grammar, it's not just like appropriate grammar.
Right.
There's something else going on, that an individual that was unique to the writer.
Yeah. And so you can't go like write a story about 2 brothers from, you know, in the style of John Steinbeck and have it pull in the same way. But there's because John Steinbeck did it, there's a person on the other side of this page pulling at, and I can and because he's talented, he can do that. And there's definitely, so like AI writing, AI art, I feel it's the same kind of thing, because there's John Steinbeck's trying to work out something. He's trying to solve a problem in his head, or he's trying to tell you something, and he can hide it, or he can just work out the story. I've heard some writers say, like, if I knew what the theme was, then I wouldn't have had to write the story. So they just have to do the thing and then realize, oh, that's what it's about. And that's the thing that I was having to learn by doing that. But AI doesn't have to do that. It doesn't have this goal other than prediction. Because all it's trying to do is guess what you want it to say. And sometimes it works. Sometimes it guesses and surprises us. But it can't. But it can't surprise people in the same way that a human being. It's just more surprising. That's the George Gilder point, right? So it's creativity is surprise, and and AI can't surprise in the same way. Even when AI art is surprising, it's because a person said, "Oh, I want a picture of Santa Claus hugging Darth Vader or whatever," and then
they're tweaking it, and
and that's the surprise. It's like, oh, that I wasn't expecting those 2 things together, but that just looks like Santa Claus, and that just looks like Darth Vader.
I'm wondering if it's again, AI it's imitative, and again, I don't know what the future holds, what abominations that AI
Brian, come on.
Well, you know, I don't want to give away all my tricks here. But I'm just part of me thinks that there's going to be a limit, like it's going to hit a wall, and it's just like it's never going to quite not be detectable. Like, we're going to know. So there'll be ways to tell, right? Like, it's the uncanny valley of just a created work. It's like, this sounds like it was written by somebody who's not quite human.
Is it a dumb guy writing, or is it is it AI?
What idiot wrote this? Well, listen, we've been going an hour. I know you only had about an hour, so we'll keep the time there. I want to thank you for coming and hanging out with me for a little bit.
Oh, it's been a ton of fun.
Yeah. And everybody, the link to Wade's show, the Wade Show with Wade, is in the description. Go check it out. There it is. Look at, he's already got his mugs there and everything. So yeah, I appreciate it, and we're gonna wrap this up. Everybody, go give him a sub, and go check out Canon Press and all that, and share the link out to this on all your stuff, your places that you hang out online. All right, peace out, everybody. We're done.